anniversary of the documentary film 10 at the Top in Tampa Bay that premiered on PBS 10 years ago this month.
When I was finishing up my master's degree at the University of South Florida in public administration, I just made this observation that there was an unprecedented number of women at the helm, at the top of government institutions in the Hillsborough County, Tampa Bay area. And when it dawned on me, I thought, something's got to be done about this. A film, a book, or has there been newspaper articles written, anything? And nothing had been done that I could find. I talked to Doris Weatherford, who's a local historian and women's expert, and she said, no, Renee, I don't think there's anything been done. You're right, it is an incredible time for the area. So I got this idea that I wanted to produce a film. And I set a goal that I wanted to premiere it March 2007, National Women's History Month, and that I wanted it to premiere on WEDU, which is our West Coast affiliate for PBS. I wanted to shoot it in high definition, and I actually wanted to dedicate it to my grandmother, who had passed away right around that time in March 2006. So I did it.
In 2007, at the start of the new millennium, 10 trailblazing women have risen to great prominence as top leaders of government institutions in the Tampa Bay area. Collectively, these 10 women set the direction of our city and county, promote the welfare of our children, help strengthen our economy, shape our educational and court system, and protect our national security. At no other time in history have so many women served in these key roles that are traditionally held by men, making this a moment worth noticing. A roadmap to success can be difficult to find, but knowing the paths of successful women can help remove obstacles for young girls.
I went to my boss that day and I said, Bill, I want you to know that I am resigning and I'm going to run for the county commission. I think he thought I was just completely out of it. He probably thought this person is a nut. You know, he just looked at me in total disbelief. I had no savings. I had this job, but it, just paid my bills. I lived on my own. I did not live with my parents or anything. I was young, but, I had my own apartment, the whole deal. And now that was a risk. And people would say, well, Pam, what are you going to do if you lose this county commission race? You're 25, you have no job, you don't have any savings. And I said, well, I'm not going to lose.
I would make a suggestion, and it would just go above everybody's head, and it would not be considered until a man made the same suggestion, although using very different words. And then it would dawn on me, that was my suggestion, that was not reacted to. I could have used that as a debilitating kind of experience, but that just made me more determined to make sure that my voice would be heard.
There was a professor who told me that I'd never make it through his class because he understood that I was in the law school, and he said, we haven't had a woman here since 1789, we're not having one now.
When I went to law school, in my class, there were only a couple of women at the time. It was when women were starting to break into the field. Just like when I came back home to practice criminal defense law, very few people would say, as a woman, you're going to do what? You're going to represent people that are in the jail, you're going to go to the jail, you're going to be around people that are violent. And so it was that breaking time. And what I had was no fear.
There's sometimes been an image that perhaps a woman is not the choice because she's either too assertive or not assertive enough. There's never seems to be an agreement on what the level is of aggressiveness that a woman has. My mother died when I was 2. My father was a hard-working individual. He valued an education because he didn't have one himself. He was only educated to the 6th grade. And he reminded me, about how hard it is to work and be successful. There were some very basic lessons that he told me. One was get a good education, take care of your teeth, and buy expensive shoes. I've done all 3.
If we have a woman one day who's a great leader and she becomes President of the United States, that will do more to further the hopes and dreams and aspirations of young girls throughout this country than anything else. That will be the ultimate role model. And I do hope that in my lifetime that happens one day. I truly do. It would be something I'd be very proud of.
I think that one of the things that the 10 women that we've been referring to can probably do and do better is that we probably should take the time out of our extremely busy lives to come together once in a while and talk about those that laid the groundwork for us and how can we better lay the groundwork for the future.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Renee Warmack, and this is my event, and that's my movie. I was thinking, what should I do for my 10-year anniversary for this film? This was truly something that I did out of a passion that I have for mentoring, for connecting women. Men do a great job of that on the golf course. We sometimes lack that. And to put a stake in the ground and said, look at Tampa. Look at these 10 women who made it to the top, and it was happening at the same time. I could not sleep. I had to produce this movie. Problem is I didn't have money and I didn't know how to produce a movie. I have friends and family who suffered through this with me, but it made it on PBS this month, 10 years ago. And I thought, if I'm going to have an event like this, what better thing to do than to bring great women together, up and coming women. We have the audacious ladies here from high school, the area here. Of distinction. Audacious ladies of distinction. And also true and dear to my heart and to many of ours. It's Queena, who's here tonight. The net proceeds will go to benefit Queena in her journey as she continues to blaze trails. Without further ado, I would like to recognize and introduce the amazing women who have volunteered their time tonight to come together to share their pearls of wisdom with you and to answer questions and inspire you. That's what this is all about. I loved watching you connect and get to know each other. I hope on the back end of this event you will also hang out a little while and get to know some new friends. Mentor, be mentored, reach out, blaze some trails, and go for your dreams, because that's what this film was for me. It was a dream come true. First of our 4 trailblazing female panelists is Jane Castor. Jane was the first woman chief of police of the city of Tampa. She's recently retired after a 31-year career in law enforcement. Jane, would you come out? We have the Honorable Doretha Edgecomb with us. After 52 years in the school system, she recently retired. She started off as a school teacher and ended up on the school board. Ms. Edgecomb, would you please come out? The Honorable Pat Frank. What a trailblazer, clerk of the circuit court and comptroller of Hillsborough County currently. She's served in the Florida legislature as a school board member and as a county commissioner. Ms. Castor. Julianne Holt, the public defender in Hillsborough County 13th Judicial Circuit, 24 years in that capacity. I selected these women for a lot of reasons, but I have to say they're classy, competent, and courageous. And thank you. So what we're going to do today is have a panel discussion. First, they're going to answer a few questions that I came up with, and then we're going to send it out to the audience. So if you haven't been thinking of some questions, put your thinking caps on. And what would you like to ask them? That's why they're here, to contribute to your future and because I care about those types of things and want to advance the causes of women and equality. So I'm going to start off with Ms. Edgecomb. Could you share with us what inspired you to become a leader?
I'm really not sure. I don't think any one thing ever inspires anyone. I think it's a multitude of things, experiences, people you interact with, people whose lives who come into your life. I come from a family of educators, but actually it was my 8th grade English teacher who inspired me to want to be a teacher. I wanted to be just like her. She was articulate, she was smart, she was impeccable, all the things that I am now. And so I want to be like her. But I think leadership happens when there are opportunities to make a difference. I would never have said I am going to be a leader or that I am a leader. When this opened, issues came about, things that I believed in happened. I wanted to make a difference. And I decided, you know that old saying, if be the change you want to see. And so I decided that's what happened. And so if that's a leader, then I've taken on those responsibilities. But I think what I'd like to see myself as a change agent. And as far as being an educator, I think it's part of my calling. But I don't know if I would ever say that I'm a leader, that I'm just someone who sees something and seizes the moment.
Thank you. I'll say too that Ms. Edgecomb today was honored by the Girl Scouts of West Coast of Florida, I believe, as one of the women of distinction. And so she's doing double duty today. She was recognized at lunchtime, took a little rest, and then came back tonight. My pleasure. Ms. Frank, what made you start all this back many years ago? What inspired you to lead?
I don't know. You saw my reference to my father. I lost my mother when I was 3, and my father was a very important person to me. And he talked to me about public affairs, about issues of the day. And I remember that my first entry into politics was when he was handling Wendell Willkie's campaign for president in Cleveland, Ohio as the treasurer. And I got literature to distribute door to door. So I came into it sort of gradually, but I was sent away in World War II because I lived in Fort Lauderdale, and the city had been taken over by the Navy. And I was just 12. And my father said, this is not a good environment for a young girl. So he sent me to the convent. And I spent 1 year at the convent in Adrian, Michigan, almost froze to death. And then I said I was not going back there again, and he sent me to a convent in West Palm Beach. Which was 3 years that I spent there. And I didn't know that you couldn't be a leader. You know, it never occurred to me. So I ran for offices for the council, you know, and everything. And I ended up being president of my class in freshman class, sophomore class, and the student body junior and senior year. It just was what was done. And then fast forward to when we moved to Florida after my husband and I were married and we had a couple of children. I was very upset because I knew that the educational system hadn't been what I expected it to be. And so I started going to school board meetings. And I became rather verbal, openly, about my opinions of things. And after a while I said, I'm as smart as those guys up there. I'm going to run. So I got $600 together, and I ran, and I lost. And it proved something to me. And I went back and I ran again, school board, and I lost. And there was a special election for the legislature, and I thought, well, surely by now my name is out. But I lost.
And I always remind every student that I ever talk to, or anybody who thinks about challenging yourself, don't be afraid of losing. It was the best experience that I had. It humbled me. It made me understand that I'm not all that important. And if you want something, that's the test of whether you really want it, if you'll go back again after you've lost. And we all have disappointments in life. And leaders are the ones who pick up the pieces and go ahead. I'm just somebody who had a lot of falling down. And so maybe that's why I end up being addressed as a leader. I don't think of myself as a leader. I think of myself as a problem solver.
Thank you.
Very good.
Ms. Holt? Inspired you.
Well, for me also, I really didn't aspire to be a leader. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. I really like to be very much under the radar. I went through school and I just wanted to make good grades. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to know where the principal's office was. I just very, very out there. But I did. My very first job that I got that was a serious job was in the clerk's office. And I was a clerk in the courtroom, and I watched a lot of the things that were going on in the courtroom. And I switched from wanting to be a CPA to wanting to be a lawyer because I decided that as a lawyer, you could make a difference in people's lives in the courtroom. Those folks that were in the courtroom without a lawyer just didn't seem to fare as well. And so I went to law school, and frankly, when you go to law school, you have to learn how to speak and stand up for some issues, and professors would call you out in the courtroom, and so I had to get a little bit more brave and become a little bit more, at least aggressive in how I communicated my thoughts. And I ended up loving law school. It's probably the best thing that I've ever done from the educational standpoint. I truly enjoyed it. And I went there with the right vision for myself. I wanted to be a lawyer and help people that needed assistance. And I always thought about being in private practice. I never thought about working in the government sector. And then what happened to me was I did just that. I went into private practice. I observed some of the things that were going on in the public defender's office. And I used to talk with my two best friends. I used to say, I want to be the public defender one day. And I guess they got tired of talking with me about it because one day they bring me a blank check and they go, this is from your checking account, and here's how you fill out the paperwork, and we're ready to walk you over. And Manuel Lopez, who just retired as a judge, and Tom Hamlin, my best friend through law school, and that's what I did. And then when I did become the public defender, I thought, wow, in 4 months my entire life changed. I had to give up something that I loved, a private practice with two great friends. And I was now the elected public defender, and with that comes tremendous responsibility and expectations, and primarily because the media starts to talk about, what are you going to do now that you've done this? You just unseated someone that was in office for a significant number of years. And I decided that I had a vision, and what the vision was. And as a result of that, I had to become a leader, but more importantly, I had to surround myself with good people. And so I started to think about those folks that had made a difference in my life during the 11 years that I've been in private practice. And one of those individuals is here tonight, a good friend of mine, Theda James, who is getting ready to retire in January. And with Theda, I hope you don't mind that I say what I say, but she was working in a great place. She was working for the Federal Public Defender's Office. She was making great money. She probably had the best career. And I convinced her to come work with me. I said, here comes a Hispanic from West Tampa and an African American from the federal system, and we've become the face of the Public Defender's Office in Hillsborough County. And to tell you that we had a rough ride the first few years is an understatement. But because of the leadership of individuals who had that same belief I did, and what that was we want to practice law, and we want to do the things that we're obligated to do under the professional rules of responsibility and ethical obligations, and at the same time we wanted integrity in the system. And for the last 24 years, that's what I've hoped that I've brought. And then I also realized that I had an opportunity to change the face of the Public Defender's Office that had a minimal amount of women that were working in attorney positions, yet every single support person basically was a female with a few exceptions. Today I'm proud to say that office is extremely reflective of my personal beliefs, of the diversity of this community, and of the diversity of this state. And so that's probably one of the greatest achievements that Theda and I, and Cordell, who's here with me tonight also, that we brought to this office. And that's how I became a leader, recognizing the immense responsibility that comes with being an elected public official in a community.
Thank you. Ms. Castor.
Okay, first of all, I want to know why I'm the only one up here that's not honorable. I have no armor. Well, you know, I spent 31 years in law enforcement, and I don't know if it was the way that I was raised. You know, it sounds similar to everyone here, to be very independent. I was never told I could or couldn't do anything. It was you just had to give 110% whatever you did and be successful. And I was raised around all the kids my age were boys. I was like 6 foot tall in the second grade, and I was pretty well coordinated right at the time Title IX went through. So I was a pretty good athlete and ended up going to University of Tampa on a scholarship. And I always, as Pat and Doretha said, you know, when there was a problem, I always looked at it, you need to find a solution. And that's another one of the favorite sayings of my dad's. He had a lot of them, like, why don't you kids go play on the interstate? You know, it was you know, if there's a problem, you need to solve it. Don't whine about things, don't complain, and if you do have a problem, come to me with a solution. So those were the things that I looked at. And then within the police department, I worked in every capacity that I could there, which I would suggest to everyone in their professions, to make yourself very valuable to that organization. And then I tell people too that I'm not overly competitive. I don't have to be number one. I just can't be number two. And so I would always, you know, do well on the promotional test, get the education that others didn't have, get my master's degrees, those types of things. But position doesn't equate to leadership. I mean, the fact that I became the chief of police doesn't necessarily equal leadership. And I take leadership very, very seriously, especially in law enforcement. And you don't have to be the chief of police. I tell every officer out on the street that you are a leader. And one of the issues is making, I think for a leader, is to make those difficult decisions. And one of my favorite sayings that I share when I do presentations is that it's easy to be the good guy, and there's no strength in that position. It's in making the tough decisions for the right reasons that leaders are born. And it is very, very difficult to do that, especially when it's unpopular. And a lot of people don't have the ability to do that, and it's something that I always try to focus on.
Thank you, and that's a good segue. That honorable will come when the elected office designation happens.
That makes Anna happy.
Give us an example, if you will, Ms. Castor, about a specific situation where you dealt with a challenge and you had to make a tough decision.
Oh gosh, how much time do you have?
A minute.
I mean, especially, yeah, for us. I can tell you a couple of them. One is that I had a rule at the Tampa Police Department that, you know, this is a free country. You can choose to do whatever you want. If you want to be a criminal, you can do that. You choose what you want to do, but you have to accept the consequences. And I have no use for someone who takes the oath of office and then goes against that. And so my rule was that any officer that was charged with DUI would be fired. And of course, the person that, you know, gets arrested is the most popular person in the department, an outstanding police officer, had all types of, you know, problems at home. So it's very difficult, and that certainly isn't a popular decision. Another one was to fire our most tenured homicide investigator for tax fraud. And a lot of people, because the information was secured and couldn't be shared with anyone, all I could say is that he committed this crime and he's terminated. He can't be a police officer. And there were a lot of people that, you know, didn't feel that couldn't believe that he had done what he did. and he just pled guilty the other day, so. But those, it's difficult. You have to do it. You can't look at it as being a popular individual. You have to look at what's the right thing, especially in my position, what's the right thing for the community, the citizens, and then for the officers in the organization as well, but the community first.
Thank you. All these positions function in the glass house. They're in the public, in the sunshine, as they call it, the sunshine law. And I think the pressures and challenges are unique in that environment. Ms. Edgecomb, would you like to share a situation where you've had a challenge and made some decisions that might be helpful to the crowd here?
Well, as a school board member, when you're making decisions for 200,000 students and 25,000 plus employees, the first thing you have to recognize that any decision you make is going to be popular. There are going to be people who believe that this should be the position or the answer. There will be a group of people who believe this should be. And so what I've always tried to do is first and foremost remember why I was in that seat and what that decision, what was going to be the impact of that decision. And as an educator, then as a policymaker, my first goal always is how is this going to make a difference in the lives of the students that we serve? And what impact would it make on those who serve them in the classrooms? And what might be the unintentional consequences of that decision? And so I would listen. I think that's an important part of being a good leader, is the ability to listen and to understand, hear all the sides. And what I would always try to do, and so mine isn't going to be specific, but it's generally how I approached any challenge decision I had to make. Get the best information, listen to those that it's going to affect. I have a teacher out there whose classroom I visit because I would talk face to face with teachers because they are the leaders in the classroom. Gather all of that information and know that at the end of the day that you've done all of your homework and you've gotten all that information and you're doing it for the right reason. Then you go forward with it, knowing all the time there are going to be some who aren't going to be happy with that. But if your own moral compass says this is the direction you should go, then that's the way you should go.
Thank you. Ms. Frank, as clerk of the circuit court, you're the custodian of all the records of the court system here in Clerk and Judicial Circuit.
I know everything about each of you.
Tell us any challenges that you've had, and if there's anything tied to transparency or that domain that you're in all the time. I mean, in your lives, you don't go to bed at night and it go away. I mean, as leaders in public life, it's always there.
And it is, and it should be. It should be, because when you're elected to public office, that's the public trust, giving their trust to you. And that has to be very carefully handled. And it makes me heartsick to see what's going on in Washington. I feel sick about it. If I make a mistake, I admit it. I even anticipate that the press would be on it, and I go down and tell them about it before they even know about it. I'm sure of that. I did this with something because I found out that we were behind a couple of months in recording deeds and mortgages. I said, you can't do that. Because a lien holder, somebody could get in the first place of the person who legitimately should own the property if you let time lapse. So I put a group together, there was a SWAT team, went into the department and we straightened it out. But before I did that, I went right down to the Tribune, and they have never been my friends. And I admitted to what I've done. And I said, this is what I'm going to do to straighten it out. They never did anything to me that was negative about that situation. And I think that when you make a mistake and you acknowledge it, if you're trying to do the right thing and you don't know about it and it happens, or you've done it unintentionally, as all of us have done in our lives, admit it. Admit it and take responsibility for it. Correct it and never do it again. And then the public respects you and they're with you. I remember that some of the polling that I did in elections, the people who were the volunteers who were working for me said, I don't understand this. These people all say, they're not of your party. They don't like the things that you do, but they're going to vote for you. And I think that honesty goes a long way in this business. And it hurts me deeply to see people who don't feel the same way that I do.
Thank you.
Well, I want to first, Anna, I know you say I don't have a sense of humor, but Jane, you can be honorable as soon as you have the same color of hair
Yes, that means I need to start having it covered.
Anna's known me for a long time, and she says I need to have a sense of humor once in a while, so I just thought
There you go.
A couple of things. I think, as Jane said, one of the most difficult things of running an agency is that you have your personnel that, frankly, you become attached to. It really doesn't matter if it's a small agency or a big agency, but you become friends with people. You start to care about them and their family. And when things happen and you have to ask them to leave the office or you have to terminate them, I think a lot of times people don't realize the toll that really takes on you. And that it isn't personal from your standpoint, because one of the things that my people know is I can actually be your friend even though I have to ask you to leave. And I know that seems very difficult, but I don't have a hard time saying to someone, you don't have your part in the work that we're doing, you don't have the right agenda here, you're not comporting to what we want to do here in the office, and I think you need to leave. But I can still have that person come over to my house for Sunday dinner, because maybe they're just better suited somewhere else. I help people find jobs that are better suited for what they really want. I hire people all the time and tell them, I really don't think you're going to enjoy going to the jail, but I hear that you want to do it. I hear that you really want to do the work we do, and then you can just tell. They sit 10 feet away from the client in the courtroom. And there's just some things that you just cannot have happening. And so that's one part of it. The second part of it is I in no way do not realize that the work that we do as criminal defense lawyers has a tremendous impact on many people's lives. We touch the lives of law enforcement. We touch the lives of witnesses. We touch the lives of victims. We touch the lives of the defendants and the clients that we have. And everyone has families. Everyone has feelings. And one of the things that I say to people is we can do our job and we can do it well, and we can do it in concordance with the law and with our professional responsibilities, but we don't have to in any way along the way disrespect people. Because we all have our particular role in this criminal justice system. And one of the things that I think that people don't realize is how difficult sometimes it is to handle some cases. In 1993, I was on a high because I'd just been elected to office. And the very first case that I get to wake up to on January 1st of 1993 is the tourist burning case. That I'm going to come into office on January the 3rd of 1993, and that's going to be my very first high-profile case. And I said, it's great that I've had this wonderful campaign speech that I've been giving, and it's wonderful that I want to be the public defender and that I believe in the work that we do. But if I don't walk that walk, I personally decided to handle that case. We're trying to get a case ready that this community was ready to have handled immediately. And the case ended up being sent to West Palm Beach because we could not pick a jury here. And over the 24 years, there have been similar cases that have been very, very difficult for the office. We've lost hours and hours of sleep over those cases. And so the decision to move forward and take on our professional responsibility and to move forward, although we know the impact that we're having on people's lives and that our clients have had on people's lives, is something that you lose a lot of sleep and we will carry, frankly. to the end of our lives here in this community. And so it's a wonderful job that I've enjoyed, but I would say to everyone, it is a very difficult job. And I tell my folks, we don't do this for the money, and we don't do it for the appreciation, but you do it because it's the right thing, under the right circumstances, at the right time, and someone must do the work that we do to make this world and this system and this country the best that there is. And so for me, those are the two difficult things.
Thank you. I have to stand up for this question because this is why I produced my movie. And the biggest reason was you have what I call the closing argument in my movie. And I interviewed all the women, and so I kind of got to keep what I kind of was hoping they would say, and she nailed it. This whole, we need to take time out to come together as women and try to groom that next generation. We're standing here today, and while there's great leaders and there's other positions that have leaders, the 10 positions I featured aren't all women for various reasons. But I'd like you to, as concisely as you can, each of you, share with this group what actionable things they can do to get a mentor, take action, learn whatever it is that they can leave today and take action and run for office, become a policymaker, be more active in their neighborhood, start a group like this. I mean, this isn't a formal group, this is just me getting people together to go do it too. What concrete steps can they take to confidence or empower, however that is? What would you tell them? What's your rah-rah speech to this group so that they leave today with that message? This council.
I would say get out of your comfort zone, number one. Get involved, number two. And surround yourself with individuals whose strengths are your weaknesses. And that's very important. And what that takes too is a very, very honest assessment of yourself and what your strengths and weaknesses are. Women are very bad about having self-confidence in our ability to do something. It's been shown through research that if there are 5 qualities or qualifications needed for a job or a task, if men have 1 or 2, they're like, I've got it. Women have 5, and I'm going to wait till I have the extra credit. You got to jump out there, get out of your comfort zone, and try. And ask people to be your mentor. People are more than happy to help you out.
Talk about that. How do you do that?
Well, the majority of mentors that I had, I don't know if anybody recognized, but law enforcement's a male-dominated profession. So the majority of mentors that I had were men, and there were a lot of great women that were trailblazers, but there was also a lot of friction between some of the women because there's very little room for advancement in law enforcement. So there was a lot of competition. But ask people, find individuals. And the one thing too is that you can even look, someone who you wouldn't necessarily qualify or define it as a mentor, but even those supervisors that you've had that are horrendous, you learn from them as well. You take those things that they do that you feel are just horrible, the antithesis of being a leader, and you make sure that you never do that yourself. But ask people. People are always willing to give advice and to help out if you just, again, get out of your comfort zone and ask somebody, get involved, make sure that you are well-rounded in whatever profession that you have. Throw yourself out there. And as Pat said, don't be afraid of failure.
Thank you. Ms. Edgecomb?
I think you've kind of nailed most of them on the head, but I think you've got to believe in yourself. And you have to, when people tell you no, you just say, step back and just watch me do it. And I saw these young ladies who here, that's the reason I asked them to come. I saw them create their own female summit at Middleton High School. And they took charge. Their advisor said to them, you're going to do this. And I watched them operate. summit that day, and how if they were well organized. They had stations, and they were able to articulate what they were doing. And I think the second thing, being able to talk about what it is that you want for yourself. And never be afraid to ask. And I think sometimes that's part of what helps. Fear is that thing that keeps us from moving forward. So find people you can surround yourself with who will be willing to support you, listen to your fears. You're going to fail, absolutely. And some of the best lessons that you're going to learn from are the moments that you fail. And never say, I can't and I won't do this again. Wallow a little bit, it's okay. We all do that. But then you get up and you find a different way of doing it. But I think it starts with confidence. And I think part of leadership has to, especially for women, let's support each other rather than pull each other down. I think we've got to find a way to do that.
Well, I think you ought to find out if you want to run for public office, you have to run for something that you really will enjoy. So what is your area of interest to begin with? There are offices that I would not run for. I wouldn't want to do it. There are parts of the county that I wouldn't want to represent because I'm not typical of the demographics of that part of the county, you see? So you have to pick and choose what is it that you want and what is it that you want to achieve if you win. That's the most important thing because that's going to drive you to understand what you're talking about. You'll want to do some research on it and you'll want to be more knowledgeable than your opponent is when questions are asked. Don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of failing. And I tell you, the thing is, we've got to understand that we're living in a different era than when I first ran for office. Who would have ever thought in my day and age that somebody could be elected President of the United States without running for one single job? I'm serious. Do you go to a doctor who's never operated before and ask him to do your brain surgery? We are living in an era where there isn't the value given for going up the ladder. However, you've got to know it. For yourself, you've got to know it because you will not be a good servant if you don't understand what it is that you're doing. And you won't, if you aren't good at it, they'll throw you out after a while. So I say there are no barriers to you anymore. You don't even need money. We've got social media, and the younger people know it better than anybody. So we need young people who are willing to devote themselves to running for office, using the very top grade social media that they can to get their messages out. And get to the people that you need to get to. Decide who your targeted audience is. Now, I don't believe in these consultants. People pay consultants money. I have never paid anybody for any campaign I've ever run except this last time that I ran because I knew that the duties of my office would not let me do the things that you have to do in a campaign. And so I paid somebody to do the mechanical things for the campaign, including social media. But I've never done that before. You got to find somebody who's good to help you. If you can't pay for it, you've got to find a friend who is really going to spend their life as well as yours in learning what to do. And then there are people that you can get to help you. I mean, I have volunteered for I don't know how many times, and I've said, look, I'll be glad to do things to teach you how you run a campaign. But my ways are the old ways. Some of them are still new. How you appear before a television camera, how you come across as a candidate, the things that teach you how to dress. Those are all parts of being a candidate, and the image, because you may only have a snapshot of you, and that's the only thing the person may see. And you've got to create an image that they feel they identify with. So there are all of these things, but I mean, I never had a mentor, never. I had to fail, and I had to fumble, And through it all, I've never lost an office in which I've been in office. Never. So you can do it. You can do it. Just decide that you really want it, and it'll happen.
Thank you.
If you could respond to that question in give us maybe 1 minute, and then we're going to throw it out to see if we didn't cover things here, and if there's some questions.
Well, I think you covered a lot of great things, but for instance, when I was in law school, I decided if I was going to be a lawyer, I was going to do everything you could, like mock trials, moot court competitions, all kinds of things to get out of that comfort zone that Jane was talking about. Get involved. If you're in school, get involved with clubs, social clubs. If you're an adult now, get involved with the Rotary, if you want us, the Chamber of Commerce. Something that will give you an idea of what the community is all about. But for me, if you're going to run for public office, what is your passion? For Miss Edgecomb, no doubt, it was children. For Miss Frank, she was breaking barriers, and so although she's never had a mentor, for all the rest of us that came behind her, what we saw and how she was respected and the things that she did, that was our mentoring. And so find your passion, look for an office that's going to give you the opportunity to satisfy that passion, and then surround yourself with good people that will help you move forward. Some will be friends, some may be consultants. Always have one person that will tell you the truth about what you're doing and what you're saying and what you're seeking. Have one person that is that reflection in the mirror that will say, that's not good. And listen to that one person.
And don't kill the messenger.
And don't kill the messenger. But find your passion, get involved. For me, I don't care what your field is, call me and I will talk to you about whatever it is that you may be interested in. My interest is seeing young people getting involved in our community and seeing the future through the eyes of individuals that see life different than we do right now. The number one thing I do now is I surround myself with people who are not my age and who can tweet and can pull up things so that I can find out what they're really thinking about. What's important to this community and how do I fit in? Every single one of you out there can make a difference in our community and we need you.
Questions out there that we did not cover, please raise your hand and let me know if you'd like to ask a question. I'm going to come to you.
This is for Ms. Holt.
What's your name?
DeLauren. I'm DeLauren Larry. The question was, what are the highs and lows of your profession?
What are the highs and lows of your profession?
Well, to be very honest with you, the high for me every day, and this is something I've said for years, I go home every day wondering if I've touched someone's life in a positive way, and for me that's a high. What are the lows? The lows are when you cannot make a difference in someone's life, no matter how hard you have tried. And frankly, it's when you see someone that no matter how hard you've tried, they just haven't found their way out of that whirlwind life that they've been leading. So that's the highs and that's the lows.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Frank? Ms. Frank, would you like to respond to that?
Do you have highs and lows?
Do I have
highs and lows? What are those in the office?
Well, for me, we received 2 statewide awards last year. That was an acknowledgement of the progress that we've made in our office. Independent of my views or anybody locally, it was both of them were statewide awards. That was the high, because to me, that's gratifying for the employees that they did a good job. I got buttons, little stickers for them, and they wore them around. It was, I am a winner, because I wanted each of them to know that they were the winners, not me. It was the people in the office, and that was my high. The low is in what has happened to me with the legislature, because these same people I'm talking about who are performing so well, earning excellent awards, are not paid adequately. I did a survey and found out that it was astonishing the number of people who are earning under $15 an hour, to do the work that's done in my office, and it's not easy work. And the legislature has cut me $1 million for 9 years. I haven't filled vacancies, and people are working twice as hard. That hurts me a lot, because every time I know that these people are working so hard and I can't help them, it makes me a little sick. And then I see my money, your money, from Tampa, fines, fees, and costs, going to Tallahassee, and what do they do with it up there? They build a new dome on the Capitol. I was there when the Capitol was built.
Sometimes a picture is better than 1,000 words. Ladies from Middleton High School, you stand up, and anybody in this room who's a teacher, that's the high in my life. A teacher, any teacher in this class, in this room. The principal, stand up, Miss Dr.
Question in the back here? We're in an industry now with, we're actually working in the hemp infused product industry, a new industry, an up and coming industry. And so for the first time, we have an opportunity to trailblaze not only as women and also as diverse individuals, but just in general in a new industry. Can you give us a specific thought that you have that you might put into your policies, your procedure manual, your mission statement? You've said a lot already, but is there something more that you would add that wouldn't have been in a policy or procedure manual 10 years ago that really speaks to the diversity and women specifically leading? No, not anyone. Anyone want to take that question? We just have a few more minutes.
You know what I was going to say? This is probably an easy one, and any of us could answer it, because every single one of us up here has ensured that every single expansive policy that's possible has been included in every single one of our respective offices. And we all, between the city and the county, we all made sure that Hillsborough County had the most expansive policies of any community. And for me, the city of Tampa and the police department did a tremendous job of laying out survivor benefits and all kinds of things of that sort. And they were trailblazers in that area, and they should be applauded for that. And it set to me, it set a great bar for the rest of us. And I think everybody's done a good job. Now, Ms. Edgecomb may think that perhaps the school board is going to have some challenges this year based on what we're seeing, because they're driven by, again, something that's going on in Washington as opposed to Tallahassee, as opposed to the luxury that we've had here locally at home is we've been able to do what we needed to do for this community to reflect the diversity of this community. And so 10 years ago, probably the city of Tampa was rolling along a little bit better than the rest of us, but today I think that we've done a great job for the city and county wide.
Thank you.
I might add, I travel all over the United States now that I'm retired, working with other police departments in other cities, and there aren't cities like Tampa and in Hillsborough County where our diversity and our differences are embraced. And I tell people there's not, we have West Tampa, we have sections of the city, but everyone is commingled together. There aren't specific areas of the city where it's strictly, one group is living. So we live in a wonderful city.
I think so. Tampa native here.
Yes.
One more question, and then we're going to have some more mingling and hopefully some more photographs out in the lobby. What's your name?
Kivata. You all were brought here because you're outstanding leaders within our community. So I wanted to know, because you all, you stepped down. Well, how did you know it was time to retire? How did you know it was time to let go?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Now, here you go. After 52 years, I think you get a message.
So you want to know when we'll know that it's time to let go?
Well, I've already said that. is my last term. So get ready.
But retirement doesn't mean ending.
That you quit.
I think you quit. There.
Right.
You still have your passion, and you still work in the community. I'm as involved as almost as involved. But it's another phase of your life that you don't see. And I think retirement is really overrated in some ways. And so that's why I'm inundated with all the things that I'm trying to do now. But if you have that passion, you just don't put it on a shelf when you walk out of the door. You keep living it. And I think that you'll find that. And you know that when the time comes. But it doesn't mean that you stop doing things that you love.
Yeah, and for me, you know, after 31 years, you have that feeling that it's time. But one, you've accomplished, you know, you have a plan and a vision, and you look at what you want to accomplish. And I felt that I had done that, and that there were younger, brighter individuals in the organization that were ready, and it was their turn.
And I think for me, this is not my last term as far as I know. And so I hope you all will help me with that. But for me, it's
You can come back to the clerk's office.
I really like that job. But for me, as long as I have a passion for the work that I do, as long as I know that I can get up every single day and have a feel of where I want my office to be heading, and if I can see that I am making a difference, not just in people's lives, but in this criminal justice system, and trying to stop this cycle that's been going on, as long as I can make a difference in that area, I want to stay in as the public defender. But unlike everyone else up here, I cannot retire. I know I cannot retire. I cannot watch paint dry on the walls. I cannot watch my plants grow, because I do that on Saturday and it drives me crazy. But I do want to give you all a shout out. When we go out here, there's a lady right here, Prisha Scalero. She made a cold call to me several years ago, and she's ended up being a partner with our office with the Pepin Academies. Y'all need to reach out to her to be a mentor for you, because she kept me on the phone for an hour and 15 minutes telling me what she could do for me. And so there you go. So Prisha, all of them are going to be chatting.
And I would like to say something too, that for people not to get discouraged just in the end, and I know I get an amen from everybody on this board, but the media plays a portion as well, and I believe that it was very frustrating for all of us, because in my position, I had 1,000 people out there, 1,000 police officers out there putting their lives on the line and doing great things every day, and it just seemed more and more that it was becoming this very focused view on anything negative that could be brought up. And the same thing applies, I think, for public office or just public service in general. And I don't want anybody to get scared or to discount public service for that reason, because there is, for me, I just couldn't imagine having done anything else for 31 years except to go out every day and serve my community. And I know everybody feels the same way up here. So don't get discouraged by some of the negativity that you see in the media.
And Renee, I know you're trying to cut us off so we can go socialize, but all of us want to thank you tremendously for
That's right, honored.
Would you all, on the count of 3, say the Honorable Jane Castor? 1, 2, 3. The Honorable Jane Castor.
I have to go get their cars after this. And all their cars.
Let's have a big round of applause for these women. We'll go ahead and exit, and there will be an area where you can make additional donations to Queena, and also there's more food out there. Please mix and mingle. Go forth and mentor, find a mentor, seize the future and your dreams, and be empowered. You got this, okay?